Welcome to the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. My name is Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm really excited about today's episode, which is all about building a tribe. Now, you might be thinking, Jess, it sounds like you are smiling. I am, not for any other particular reason other than every single episode that I record the intro every single time. So every single time I'm like, welcome to this episode of Smart Leaders Sell podcast. Blah, 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 blah. And this time I started recording it and like a complete idiot, just kind of forgot what I was saying like halfway through, even though I say it all of the time. And I just kind of went, and there was nothing. There was nothing else going out. So this morning is starting well. And as you're listening to this episode, please bear with my brain because it may be on a little bit of a go slow today. But nevertheless, today I'm talking about building a tribe, building an audience that buys. Now, this is a particularly kind of contentious issue because I see a lot of people out there who are like, yes, build a business, sell products, sell services, whatever it is. You don't need an audience. Just get a bunch of people to look at your Facebook ad and they will go and immediately buy from you. And I think that is the worst sales strategy that I've ever seen. Now, one of the reasons that it's quite popular is because it doesn't actually involve that much work. Okay. And so a lot of Facebook ad companies who aren't as ethical as we'd perhaps like will tell you that, yeah, sure, you can get people looking at your ad and they'll go and buy your stuff. Not an issue. When the reality is that actually it's really hard to develop a sales strategy if you don't have a warm audience or if you're not taking the time to establish one. So let's just talk about this for a second, because as most of you will know, I spend all of my time going on and on and on about how sales is simple, because really it just is about you presenting your offers to people. Okay, so in essence, sales requires only two things. It requires you to have eyeballs, it requires you to have people or traffic, and it requires you to have offers that those people actually want to buy. Super, super simple, right? The thing is, the easiest way to make money is to harness the power of your warm audience. Okay, so these are the people who follow you regularly, who read your stuff, who listen to your podcast, who are engaging with you on social media or replying to your emails or whatever. Those are your warmest people. And so actually it's much easier to sell to those people because they're regularly engaging with you. They want to build a relationship with you. They are actively supporting you by supporting your content in some way. And so it's much easier to sell them stuff because they already trust you. They already like you. They already want to buy from you. They might have even already purchased from you. Okay. Now, when we start businesses, it can be really, really tempting to be like, right, okay, well, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to blast the entire world and spam everyone with my offer and hope that some people will buy. And indeed, numbers does factor into sales, right? It's a metrics-driven industry. But cold traffic has a very, very different response rate than warm traffic does. Okay. And they have a very, very different buy rate. So I always say to my clients, you've really got to focus on building an audience and building an audience of raving fans, die-hard raving fans that really want to consume all of your content, that want to, actively participate in anything that you're running, who want to buy from you. Now, we can train them to want to buy from us. We can overcome objections and things like that. But this building a tribe piece is really, really integral to the survival and how your business will go on to thrive. So let's talk about this and let's kind of put it into some perspective here, because one of the biggest examples of this I've seen recently is the World Cup. Now, I'm not a football fan by any means. In fact, the only football thing that I ever watch is the World Cup. And I'm the sort of football fan who, in the 1997 World Cup, when I kind of fancy Michael Owen. And he's kind of great. So forever onwards supported Liverpool for about, I don't know how many years. And then was fortunate enough to go to a Sunderland v Newcastle derby game and really, really got on board with Sunderland fans and how they feel about their football team and the camaraderie and everything. And I really like that. So at the moment, I consider myself a Sunderland fan. Could not tell you when they scored a goal last. Couldn't tell you who's on the team. But if anyone asks me, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm a Sunderland fan. But World Cup fever kicked in this summer. And neither I nor Sam are particularly big football fans. In fact, like I say, I'm the token Sunderland fan. And Sam kind of supports Arsenal. I mean, he does it better than I do because he does actually sometimes look at football scores and things. But we both are not massively interested. However, when the World Cup came around, both of us initially were kind of like, ugh, this is really annoying because it's taking over and going into time on programs that we'd actually rather be watching. But we kind of got caught up in the overall World Cup fever. And by the end, both of us actually watched the final with France versus Croatia. I was really rooting for Croatia to win because I actually really want to go there on holiday. So I was kind of like, yeah, if they win, it'd be amazing and all this kind of thing. But I was kind of glad in the end that France won, because then I realised that it would have pushed up prices massively to go to Croatia. So, you've got to factor some things in. I'm trying to look for the silver linings here. However, World Cup fever kicked in this summer. Everyone was raving about it, and it split people into two very distinct camps. You had the people who were totally warm traffic for World Cup fever. Those were the people who they were choosing the pubs that they were going to based on whether or not they were playing the football. They were the people who were driving around in their cars, I kid you not, with little flags, England flags, coming out of their windows and stuff, so that people could see that they were supporting our football team. They were the people who were buying the mugs with England flags on. They were people who were, I kid you not, also having tattoos on their legs of football players. Given that England didn't win the World Cup, I would imagine those tattoos are now a little bit redundant, but whatever, like the next one, those players may still play. So they were primed and ready, and they wanted to buy products and services that were related to or that supported the World Cup. Lots and lots of businesses who promoted themselves as being a World Cup sponsor or who created World Cup based products reported rises in sales because people were like, yay, this is awesome. England might actually win it. This is the one thing I like about being British. We are eternally optimistic when it comes to this World Cup. We haven't won it since 1966, but every time it comes around, we give it a good crack. So here we are, caught up in this World Cup fever, and the warm camp are buying everything they possibly can that is to do with the World Cup, right? And then you have the other camp who are very, very firmly, we could not give two fat rats backsides that the World Cup is happening, and indeed we're just really, really hacked off that it's cutting into Love Island time and that everyone is talking about football. And those people were actively buying or using products and services that were not focused towards the World Cup, right? These people were looking for pubs that were not showing the World Cup, pubs that didn't even have televisions. They were going to restaurants where the World Cup wasn't being mentioned. They certainly were not buying England-themed mugs, key rings, or displaying any kind of flags out of their cars because they didn't care, right? They didn't care about the outcome. They didn't care about the results. They were just like, I'm not bothered. And this to me is possibly the best case kind of scenario for building an audience, right? As Chris Tucker says, you attract the best, you repel the rest. And the World Cup did this with aplomb, okay? Everyone who was really pro-football got on board with it. They were singing the chants. I can't remember, Skinner and Badil, I think it is, who sing the Three Lions song. They got back into the charts. Like everyone who was supporting the World Cup, it was very clear. They were very easily identifiable. They were united in a common cause. Get England to the final. Woo, woo, woo. And when it didn't happen, they were still committed to the cause, right? They were still committed to the World Cup. Everyone had their favourite team that they wanted to win. Some people wanted Belgium, some people wanted France, some people wanted Croatia, some people wanted Brazil. Like it was this kind of fever of, okay, great, we're not going to win, but let's pick somebody else. Let's get behind somebody else. Let's get behind the fever and the magic of this sport that brings and unites people across the world. Realising I sound quite passionate about the World Cup, I'm actually really not. I'm not, but I like what it does for tribe building. And then you had the other side of people who are just like, yeah, we united in the fact that it frustrates the crap out of us and that we just want it to be over as soon as possible. And are you really sure that there has to be that many games? This is what we need to do in our businesses. Okay, we need to be attracting those people and having an audience of raving fans who are behind us, whatever we're doing. They're like, yeah, you've got a book, I'm going to read it. Yeah, you've got a podcast, I'm going to listen to it. Woohoo, you got a Facebook group, I'm going to be in it, right? We want these people. And the people who don't really want to learn about what we're selling, whether that's health or sales, marketing, mindset, whatever, they're just kind of ambivalent and they're united in something else, right? But we have to unite audiences. We have to give them this common cause. We have to give them the ability to be part of the tribe, and we have to make them feel like there is something out there, like they are connected to other people who feel the same. So if we look at my Facebook group, for example, the whole reason my Facebook group started was because there were, initially, and we're talking going back sort of 3.5 years here, initially there were a lot of women out there who wanted to set up businesses, who wanted to ask questions, but who didn't want to seem stupid for asking the question, which I completely got and understood. And so I set up this group and I was like, hey, look, the group's there. You can ask business questions. You don't have to feel stupid. It's just there to help you and give you some support. And you can go in, you can ask a bunch of questions and you can get some advice and great. And it worked well because it united people in a common cause, right? They wanted to learn about business. They didn't want to feel dim. And they knew that they were going to be in a place with other people who felt the same. So it wasn't scary anymore to ask the question. And then over time, obviously, my business changed and, it started becoming more obvious that actually men had questions too. Who'd have thunk it? And that they wanted somewhere to be to talk about sales specifically. And so we kind of shifted the group slightly and we gave it a different name. We moved from being the Fabulous Female Entrepreneurs to the Smart Leaders Sales Society. And we started letting men into the group. And, they came in, they asked questions, they participated in challenges, and it was, it's great. And it, again, unites everyone in a common cause. Everyone has questions about sales. Everyone needs support around sales. Everyone doesn't want to feel like an idiot when they ask the question, and they want to know that they're surrounded by other people who are genuinely committed to learning more about selling stuff, right? That's why it works. It's like the podcast, this podcast that's in your ears right now. It unites people because I come on and I talk about things that I think are interesting or that you can learn or that are actionable and practical. And that a bunch of other people are listening to it too. So it's not just you that had the question, right? If you're somebody who comes on for live coaching, it's not just you that has the question. You're voicing questions that other people definitely want answers to, but might not be brave enough to speak out loud. And so it's always funny for me because when people say, how much ad spend did you spend on your latest launch? I say, well, minimal. Really, really minimal. So if we look at the latest launch for cash creation, the amount I actually spent on ads was about £56. So in dollars, that's about 80, I think. And we didn't spend any money on ads to promote the sales of the cash creation program. Instead, we spent £56 on attracting more people to join the challenge, the Sales In for Summer challenge, because I wanted new people in the audience. I wanted to have as big a challenge as possible, because when you get as many people in a challenge as possible and you unite them towards a common cause, i.e. getting as many sales in for summer as you possibly can, they join a collective. They join other people who feel the same way. They get support from other people who have been in the same situation. And so when you go on to sell a group program that helps support them through that, surprise, surprise, you get a bunch of people who sign up because they're warm. They've been supported. They've had value demonstrated. They know you've got integrity, like all these things. So when people come to me and they say, oh, I spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month on ads, I'm never massively impressed unless they're doing something with that, unless there is a clear purpose. And that clear purpose for me around advertising is always about building your audience. Ads will not make you money. That is not why you have advertising. Advertising is there to help you generate leads, and it's your job to go and convert those leads into sales, right? That's the job of advertising. That's the job of marketing. Marketing gets you leads. Sales is about converting them. That's the difference. Okay. If you want to know more about the difference between marketing and sales, it was a really interesting question asked by Louise Mason on a podcast episode a few months ago. So we will put the link to that in the show notes and you can definitely go and check that out if you would like to. But onto this audience building piece. Building an audience is important, obviously. As we've just discussed, right? You need an audience to sell anything to, and having a warm audience will ensure that you make more money and that it will be a lot quicker. All right. So let's talk about how we actually build one, because it's all very well me being like, yeah, go and get some followers. But it's like, well, how do we actually do that? And the first thing you need to think about when you are looking at growing your audience is around your messaging and your content. Now, I don't believe in putting out never-ending streams of content. I'm not a massive content creator. I do not have 50,000 opt-ins. Maybe this is because I'm inherently lazy / work smarter, not harder. But I just don't believe in creating tons and tons and tons and tons of original content to generate leads. Okay. And the reason I don't believe in that is because I want to spend my time on creating tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of original content for people that are actually paying me for the privilege and that would be best supported. by that content. Lead generation for me is about working really smart, creating opt-ins that people will want, and putting out messaging that will help people understand whether you are for them and they are for you. And that's it. So messaging is key. Now, when we're looking at building this audience, it's about understanding what your message is and who you want to speak to. So having that piece of clarity, having your own style, but also where are you putting that message? Einstein said that, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you will find that the fish is stupid. But that's the same for our content. If you are somebody who is talking about marketing, yet you're talking about marketing only in health-based business groups or health-based Facebook groups, you're going to find that nobody buys. It's not because your content isn't great, it's just because it's in completely the wrong place. So you have to make sure that any content you are creating is getting in front of the eyes or into the earbuds of the people who are actually interested and invested. So that means doing a little bit of research. Okay, so thinking about, are there any Facebook groups that I particularly think would be great for me to put content in front of? Are there any podcasts that I'd particularly like to go on because I think I could demonstrate value? Are there any YouTube channels that would be useful? Can I get on LinkedIn and connect with specific people? There are lots of ways to do it. The second thing is about building your own foundation to put that content. So as you might have noticed, I'm inherently a work smarter, not harder type. I'm inherently a fairly lazy person. I don't like doing lots and lots of things. So that means that I don't post in 3 to 5 Facebook groups 3 to 5 times a day, because actually I would get really, really frustrated with it. And I see it as a really spray and pray marketing strategy. However, what I have been really good at doing over the years is creating my own content and putting it in a space that people can access it there but nowhere else. So for example, when you go into my Facebook group, the content in there is not repurposed by me anywhere else. I don't go into anyone else's Facebook group and post it. I don't, go out onto anyone else's kind of forums or Slack channels or LinkedIn posts or whatever and post that information. It's for the people in my group, because ultimately the content I create for that group has been driven by what those people are asking for and what they need. Likewise, the podcast. It's created for you guys. When you email in with questions or when you put me messages on social media and ask questions, the content created on the podcast is created for you. It's not stuff that I repurpose elsewhere. Now, some people might say, oh yeah, well, that's a really silly strategy. And I agree, repurposing is fantastic and you can get a lot from it. And I've talked about that in other episodes, so I'm not going to bore you to death with it right now. But what I am saying is make sure that you are building your house on your own foundations, because what we've seen and trends that we've seen over the last few years is that lots of people built businesses in Facebook groups. And so there were certain Facebook groups that were huge. We're talking 20,000, 30,000 members. And people were getting business from this. They were going in there, they were posting value, they're picking up clients. It was great. And then the owners shut the Facebook groups down, or they implemented no promo rules. And people were like, crap, what do I do? Because suddenly their business was taking a massive hit, and it wasn't something that they could control. Equally, Facebook is out there shutting down accounts, shutting down groups, shutting down things left, right, and center. YouTube channels get shut down regularly. And so it can be really, really difficult to build your business on platforms that you cannot control. So when you're going out there with this messaging, yes, absolutely 100% sell. Absolutely. But when you are going out there and you're trying to attract an audience, the important thing for you is to drive them somewhere that you have control over. Your email list, your podcast, your community. Because that way, if anything does happen, if Facebook decides to shut groups down tomorrow, the majority of people in my Facebook group are on my email list. So it's fine. Not a problem. If Libsyn decided to pull my podcast, it's fine. We've still got all the content. It's still there. We'll just put it back up on a different platform. It would never happen, right? But these are things that I can control. And it's really important that when you are doing this marketing, when you're growing a tribe, it's not about how many likes are you getting on social media. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for you to grow a 10,000 person group. We're looking for you to have people that are agreeing with your message, that believe the same things that you do, that want to be educated in the area that you specialize in, and that want to learn more from you and consume more content from you. So when they're on your email list, you can pop out 2 emails a week and it's nice and easy, and you let people know what you're up to and how they can buy from you or what content you've produced that week, and you direct them to different places. Whereas when people are just in a Facebook group, if the Facebook group goes, suddenly that's it. If Facebook, like it has done recently, changes its algorithms and says, oh, we're only showing you the highlights now of each group that you're in, suddenly you have a problem because people aren't seeing your content as much as they were, and therefore they're not as bought in. Yeah. So think about this, like when you're trying to build an audience, it's absolutely about messaging. It's absolutely about attracting them. But most importantly, it's about attracting them to a place that you have control, that you have ownership over. That's why email lists are my favorite thing. I flipping love my email list. The latest launch of Cash Creation, the majority of people who bought came from my email list and came from the email marketing that we did. Okay. It's important. And the way that we attract people to my email list, well, hey, it's people who listen to the podcast, right? It's people like you. You're probably on my email list. I hope you're on my email list. If you're not, get on there. It's great. But it's that kind of thing. So we use, when we're talking about building a tribe, we have attraction elements. So we have content that we put out there to attract people, and then we have content that we put out to convert people. For me, elements that I use in my business to attract audiences are my Facebook group and my podcast. The ways that I convert them are through email or through posting. Okay, so that's what I want to be super, super clear about. When we're talking about building an audience, you've got to be clear, what are my attraction channels? So, are you using Facebook ads? Have you got a podcast? Have you got a YouTube channel? Are you out on LinkedIn? Have you got a group that you've got tagged really well with a really good description so that people can search for it easily? Are you asking people to share your work regularly? And then you have your conversion channels. And that for you, it might be your email list. It might be your Facebook group. It might be that it is your YouTube channel. It doesn't matter. It might be proactive outreach. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just that you need to understand what's the element that is helping me attract a bigger audience, and what is the element that's helping me convert them into clients. So, you might go out there and do different things like appear on podcasts, be an expert on telesummits. You might get other people to take over your Instagram for a day, Instagram stories or something, and you take over theirs, and you might leverage audiences that way. You might get people to promote your work. You might become an affiliate for somebody, okay, and start doing that. You might even give testimonials. I've had this where I've given testimonials to people, and then people have come to me and been like, oh, I saw you worked with so-and-so. I saw you on their sales page. And then, I actually need to learn about sales. So I thought I'd come in and speak to you. Like, oh, cool. Right? There are lots and lots of different ways to attract people. So messaging is going to be key for that, and understanding that the messaging needs to go on an attraction channel to help you build up this audience. And then what we have to do is, once we've started building the audience, it doesn't matter how big it is, right? You can be emailing your list if it's just one person on it, or if it's 150 or 150,000. The number doesn't matter. It matters that you nurture them and that you keep them warm. Okay. And that's how you start building the relationship. So you might send out a welcome sequence. You might be emailing them twice a week. You might be going into your Facebook group every day and writing a post. You might be doing Facebook Lives. You might be recording your podcast episodes. You might be going out onto YouTube. It doesn't matter how you're doing it. But the point is, once people are bought into you, once you've gone to the effort of actually getting them into your tribe, you want to keep them there, because they're only going to buy from you when they have this relationship with you. Okay. And that comes from them getting to know you. It comes from them being able to know, like, and trust you. And that comes from putting out content that they're going to enjoy, that's going to be valuable for them. It comes down to consistent market research, knowing what it is they actually want to learn about at that time. So make sure that you've got your attraction channels are designed to push people into your conversion channels. Okay. Your Facebook groups, your email lists, whatever. And then make sure that you're actually selling to them. Okay. Now you might be thinking, Jess, this is really obvious because you're on a sales podcast. Obvious. Yes, absolutely. 100%. If you don't have a tribe, you don't have money. Okay. If you don't have an audience, you aren't going to make money. It's just not possible, because if you have nobody to sell to, you can't sell anything. That's just the way it goes. It doesn't matter how big the tribe is. It matters that they're engaged and warm. In comparison to the majority of my competitors, I have a really small audience. Okay. We're talking like 25,000 total in terms of, and you might be thinking, 25,000, I've got like 200 people on an email list. But we all start somewhere. I sold out my first group program, 25 people on a list of 237. Okay. Because it was highly engaged. It was active. People were involved. They were bought in. They liked the messaging. And that's the important thing. So know what your conversion channels are, and spend time selling always offer opportunities. I know that sometimes it can feel like, oh, well, I've got a really small audience, so I don't want to sell to them because what if people leave and then I'll have an even smaller audience? And the simple fact is that sometimes people will leave, and that's okay because they weren't going to buy from you anyway. You know, I had in this entire cash creation launch, we had some people who unsubscribed from my email list. And it was really funny because a couple of people, and in total, I'm talking out of my entire list, we had 5 unsubscribes from the cash creation launch. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I don't do massive launches very often. So when I do, my list can kind of forgive me for it. They know that I'm going to be sending them a bunch of emails. I'm very honest and transparent about it. I'm very honest and transparent about the date that their emails will stop. And I do say to people, you know, that I appreciate them letting me in their inbox and putting up with it. The other thing is that people can actually learn a lot from the emails I send out during launch. So, you know, actually my email marketing is really useful because I teach sales. So if you're somebody who's interested in learning how to sell through email marketing, reading my emails is a really good start because you can learn a lot about developing style, about types of email that work and types of email that don't. So we have that piece, you know, and we had these like 5 unsubscribes, and one person said, oh, there were too many emails. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Too many launch emails. And when I sort of thought about it, initially I was like, oh God, maybe I'm sending out too many. Crap. Like, are people going to be really annoyed? Because you do sort of worry about it. You do think, oh, I always think about feedback. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, well, you know, actually in comparison to most people's launches, I haven't sent out a ton of emails. And actually it's really important that my audience see me selling, because that's important for them to see that A, I'm not just preaching stuff, I'm actually practicing it, and B, that it works and that it's useful. So when I thought about the too many emails thing, I thought, well, you weren't going to buy from me anyway, because if 3 emails in a day was too much, well, I'm sorry, but that's kind of what launching is about. And maybe you're not the person who's ready to embrace that kind of sales yet, and that's fine. That's totally cool. Find somebody else who will teach you a different sales style that will work better for you, right? So it can be nerve-wracking to sell to small audiences early. It can be nerve-wracking to think that people will leave, and people will leave when you're launching. But the good thing is that if you have this die-hard raving tribe of warm people, is that actually the people who leave are the people who don't resonate with your message, or who don't resonate with what you're selling, or who were never going to be those die-hard raving fans anyway. And what you're left with are these people who want to buy. Now, they might not be able to buy during the particular launch or the particular offer that you're sending out. They might be constricted by financial stuff. It might be that the offer isn't right for them right now. Might be lots of reasons, but they'll be your best messengers if they're not your biggest buyers, right? They'll go out and they'll tell everyone. They'll tell everyone what you're doing at the moment. They'll tell everyone when you've got a free challenge running or when you've launched something new. Because just because they can't buy it doesn't mean they don't know other people who wouldn't, right? And when you create and cultivate and make people feel valued as part of a tribe, what happens is they want to support you and you want to support them. You know, one of the biggest joys in my business is running things like the free challenge, the Sales in for Summer challenge that I did recently, because actually it's the one time that I get to spend with all of my audience who want to participate and give them some sort of help and encouragement and advice, because it's not something that I can do all the time for free. You know, it's not something I have the time to do or that would be fair to my paying clients to do for free. But once every quarter, we run an awesome challenge and it gives amazing value and people get awesome results. And that's so good to see, because the rest of the time I spend looking at my audience and sometimes feeling really sad because the things that we hear or the emails that I get from people who say, you know, I've been screwed over by this coach or done this by this coach. It's really difficult, and you want to save the world, right? Because they're your audience. They're your diehard raving fans. They're the people that you really like and admire and respect and enjoy spending time with. And that's what you want to be cultivating with your tribe. You want to be giving them something to get behind. So there are a few questions here that I want you to ponder if you haven't yet built a warm audience, or if your audience is not as big as you would like. So the first question is, are you putting out content that is designed to attract them? Okay, so is your content interesting, engaging, covering off problems that your audience will be interested and wanting to know the answers to? Or is it vanilla? Is it a bit dry? Is it, you know, trying to sit on the fence so that you don't kind of come a cropper against trolls and keyboard warriors? Interesting and engaging content will always get you audience members. All right. So please make sure that if you're looking at content, you're thinking, right, how is it interesting? How is it engaging? But also, how is it focused towards the customer or the prospective customer? The second thing I want you to think about is, are you putting your content onto decent attraction channels? i.e., are you promoting that content in the right places? Or are you a health coach hanging out in business groups trying to promote get healthy in a business group where people are not focused on that particular outcome in that area, right? So if you're in a business group, you're focused on learning about business. You're not focused on your health. So when people promote that kind of content, people scroll past because it's not of interest to them, okay? So make sure you're looking and using the right attraction channels for you, the right Facebook groups, the right podcasts, leveraging the right people's networks, etc. Then we want to look at, okay, are you building your own foundations? Are you leading people back to somewhere that they can build a deeper relationship with you? Email list, own Facebook group, own podcast, YouTube channel, LinkedIn profile, blog, whatever that may be. And it really doesn't matter about the platform. I know that some people are really prissy around, oh yeah, well, you've got to have a group, you've got to have this. But in all honesty, the best kind of attraction marketing is done on what you enjoy. For example, I absolutely hate video marketing. I really don't enjoy it because I have to put makeup on, I have to actually look nice, and I just can't be bothered. Love podcasts because it's really easy for me to do. I can fit it into my day. Nobody cares what I look like. And so my podcast is eminently more successful than my very, very, very short-lived vlog ever was. Yes, there was a vlog. It was about 5 episodes. It was terrible. Like the content was good, but I just couldn't be bothered to keep doing it. So you've got to think about, where am I bringing these people back to? Am I bringing them back to somewhere that they are then indoctrinated into being part of my tribe, right? Then the next thing I want you to think about when it comes to building an audience is, are they feeling valued? Okay, and this is a big question because, I know some amazing business owners who have solid tribes that maybe are not as big or maybe are massive. And the reason that people stick around is because that person makes them feel valued. They send out value with their newsletter. They make people feel like they know them. They recognize names in Facebook groups. They do all those things that actually make people feel good and want to spend more time with them. Okay. And equally, I see some people who've built huge tribes and then lose huge amounts of people because they stop making people feel valued, right? They stop showing up in their Facebook group. They stop sending messages out to their list. Everything becomes about them. They become the traditional stereotype of an influencer, and they just talk about themselves all the time. They forget that it's actually about their audience now and about what their audience wants and needs and has to learn about and things. And so they end up losing people. So start thinking, am I helping these people build a relationship with me? Is this a two-way street? Am I making them feel valued and supported? Am I giving them good information? Am I nurturing them correctly? Am I giving as much as I'm taking? Yeah. And then finally, am I converting them? Converting is an episode for a different day. And certainly if you are struggling to convert your audience, you can go ahead and listen to other episodes on Never Hear Another No on a Discovery Call, the podcast episode on not developing a bunch of baby birds in your audience and over nurturing and those kinds of things. But that's the final question that you want to be asking yourself is, am I converting these people? And if you are not, then I want you to look at all the other steps again. So if you already have an existing audience, but they're not converting into sales and you don't think it's a sales problem, you think it's my audience don't want to buy this problem, I want you to look at your marketing. Is your marketing doing the right job for you? Is it actually attracting people who are going to buy from you, who need what you have to offer? Or is it just vanity metrics and getting you people? Hopefully those questions will pose some interesting thoughts for you. If you want to share those with me, please do. Feel free to drop me an email, jessica@jessicalorimer.com. I hope you have a wonderful Monday and an epic week, and I will see you back in Friday's episode with a super special guest. Have an awesome time. See you on Friday.